freaking day to you all, people. Welcome back to 4th and Goal, where neither rain, nor snow, nor sleet, no horrifically timed viral infections that will keep you up for hours at a time at night will stop the delivery of college football to you, the good people who have supported our show from the very beginning. In the interest of time and preserving what is left of my voice at the moment, I'm going to go through this past week rather quickly. So, Clemson remains in college football purgatory after getting absolutely smacked by Syracuse in their own building. Looks like they're going to stay there until there's some change at the top. And by change, I mean either Dabo amicably parts ways with them or figures out how to use the transfer portal. I don't think the second one's happening. So as long as he's the coach there, Clemson's going to remain a kind of middle of the pack ACC team from here on out. Miami continued inflicting horrible punishment upon Florida, who is off to one of the rougher starts you'll see this season. I think the only team they have beaten so far was like an FCS team or a group of 5 bottom dweller or something like that. Is the end of the line for Billy Napier. We'll see what they do with that. And hey, you got Texas Tech pulling away from the pack at the Big 12. They look like the team to beat in their absolute throttling of Utah this past week. Very interesting to develop, very interesting. It'll be interesting to follow Texas Tech from here on out to see if they can keep that momentum going. Additionally, Auburn did very clearly get robbed by the officiating there, but it is Auburn, so they did deserve it. If you don't agree that they deserve it just because they're Auburn, you should agree because the officials did the same thing to Arkansas a couple years ago when they played Auburn. Starting off this week, though, I know you guys want to hear about the 2 big games that are going on this Saturday. I'm going to start off with LSU going to Ole Miss. It used to be called the Magnolia Bowl. I'm going to be calling it the Landry Kiffin Bowl because, LSU linebacker Whit Weeks is dating Landry Kiffin, as he announced this week that he plays Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin said to all betting people, bet the over, which means there should be some fireworks involved with this game. Looking at this game, I think Ole Miss is a known commodity at this point. That team is all offense. Like, oh my gosh, where was the defense against Arkansas or even Kentucky before then? That run defense especially looks like Swiss cheese. It's full of holes. It is nowhere near the unit that it was this past year. Part of that is because Pete Golding is their defensive coordinator. Another part is because they lost a lot of really important pieces to the draft, as you are probably well aware of. Most importantly, Walter Nolan, transfer from Texas A&M. That offense, though, pretty good. They've been scoring points in bunches, and it doesn't even matter who's quarterbacking that thing. Heck, I don't know if I could quarterback it and lead it to as much success as it's had so far, but maybe a good bit of it. That's just how good that thing is. That's how good the skill position players are. That's how well Lane Kiffin's system is going. That is a good offense. Then you got LSU. We thought LSU was a known commodity after they beat Clemson. But are they really? This team is in the top 5 of the AP poll based off of their 2 wins over Clemson and Florida. Both those teams, as it turns out, are really freaking bad, and other teams have beaten both Clemson and Florida by worse scores than LSU have, and they have looked more impressive while doing it. So, it looked like LSU was a defensive team during their win over Clemson. They held Clemson to, I think, 10 points in their own building or something crazy like that. But then it turns out that a lot of people can hold Clemson to low scores, such as Syracuse and Georgia Tech. And if your defense is on the same level as those teams, there might be some questions going. Meanwhile, the offense, I know Brian Kelly is saying that Garrett Nussmeier is injured, and I think he is injured. But I don't think you're heavily injured to the point where it majorly affects your offense if you are still dropping 52 points on whatever no-name group of 5 FCS school they played this past week. I think he's a little healthier than Brian Kelly is letting on. I think he's just using it as a cover because that offense is still not figured out yet. Is this the time when they figure it out? I don't know. Like I said, Ole Miss's weakness on defense is that run defense. And LSU has not been able to run the ball so far. So we usually talk about strength on strength. Here it is week on week. LSU sucks at running the ball. Ole Miss stops pardon me, Ole Miss sucks at stopping the run. I'm going to have to just mumble my way through this, and I may misspeak a few times because I'm not feeling great, so I apologize in advance. But like I was saying, week on week, who comes out on top? I'll tell you what the model thinks. The model thinks that LSU is going to lose. It thinks that Ole Miss is still going to do a decent bit of scoring. It thinks that LSU's defense maybe is not as much up to snuff as previous games have led the public to believe. And I happen to agree with the model just because of that, and then the whole Lane Kiffin's daughter thing. He's going to throw the kitchen sink at LSU's defense this week, so they're going to get theirs in terms of points. I don't know if I trust LSU to do that yet, because I know we're talking about LSU's defense being questionable because of the Florida and the Clemson games. But the offense was not really playing against great defenses for Clemson and even Louisiana Tech. Florida's defense was good and held them to 20, but then Miami scored 26 or 27 on them and had a fair touchdown call back because of poor officiating. So with LSU, they're just an unknown commodity. I'm going to trust the known commodity. I'm going to trust Lane Kiffin. I'm going to trust Ole Miss's home field advantage, and I think they're going to come out with a big win, and this is probably going to push them into the top 10. Next, I want to go over the biggest game in the South by a long shot this weekend, and that is going to be Alabama at Georgia. These two teams have been at each other's throats for the past decade, combining to win so many national titles, so many SEC titles, all except one, I think, when LSU won it in 2019. Took a historically good LSU team for someone other than Georgia or Alabama to win the SEC. Now, Alabama is going into Athens for the first time since 2015. This game is extremely important for both of these teams for totally different reasons. For Alabama, this may be a playoff elimination game, even if they win the rest of their schedule. And I say this because the ACC is looking a bit stronger than usual. You got Miami and you got Florida State looking like really good teams. Both of those could easily go 10-2 with their schedule. Florida State would have a tiebreaker over Alabama. Then in the Big Ten, you have Oregon looking good like usual. You have Ohio State looking good as usual, Penn State, and Indiana. Those are four teams I think could very easily go 10-2 as well. So Alabama, I think they got to win this one. And if they lose it, I know I just made the case for having to compete against other 10-2 teams for that last playoff spot. But let's be real here. I don't think they're going through the rest of that schedule without another loss. I think that would be borderline miraculous if they did. And it might not even matter. And for Georgia, it's all about pride. You've heard the numbers. They are 1-9 in the last 10 games against Alabama. Kirby Smart is 1-5 against Alabama. This, from what we saw in the Florida State game, probably Alabama's worst overall team since I'd say 2007. I think they've upgraded at quarterback. I think the wide receiver core is very deep there, but that defense looked like a sieve against Florida State. Just ran the ball all over Alabama's defense. The blocking was not great. They can't run the ball at all. And I know they're getting Jam Miller back and they're getting Tim Keenan back, which would address those two weaknesses, but to what extent? And are you going to do it to a large extent in Georgia's own building? My gosh, Georgia needs to win this game. For their own pride, and so they don't get trolled on the internet by folks from Tuscaloosa, they have got to win this game. So I want to look at what the model is showing us for the Georgia-Alabama game. And I'm not talking about just the final score, although it is interesting. Even with home field advantage, it's still showing Georgia losing to Alabama by a touchdown, too. That's pretty crazy. It's saying that Alabama is about to end a 33-game home winning streak for Georgia. What's very interesting is what it's saying about how Alabama's going to do it. It's saying that's going to do it through the air. The game run points, game pass points, if you look at that, that's what we think their score production will come from in terms of the run game or the pass game. It's expecting Alabama to just be absolutely garbage at running the ball, which tracks because their running offense has overall been terrible this year, and Georgia's run defense has been pretty good. Not elite like it usually is, but it's been pretty good. Georgia is expected to have a more balanced attack. The run points and the pass points are a little closer in terms of separation than Alabama's, but The pass points being lower, um, that is what the model is saying is going to bite Georgia in terms of scoring. It's saying that the model is saying it's looked at what Alabama struggled at in terms of giving up points, especially to Florida State, and that was through the run game. But it's saying Georgia does a good bit of its scoring through the pass game. And if Alabama is able to limit that at all, to limit the explosive nature of the receivers, you got Brian Branch, Humphreys, Dylan Bell, if Alabama can keep Georgia from being explosive and probably hit a few deep passes of their own, which they are more than capable of, it's got a good chance to pull the upset. Call me crazy. I think it's going to happen. Guys, I think Alabama's going to go into Georgia. I think they're going to win. They are going to somehow find a way to, again, beat Georgia. I usually would never pick Alabama in this spot. I can't explain it. This is just like, this is a solid matchup issue that the model is saying. I'm going to trust the model, so I'm picking Alabama to win. Don't feel great about it. I wouldn't bet any money on it, but for now, I'm going to pick them to win somehow, some way. That is going to really muddy up the SEC title game picture now, won't it? For the last game I want to go over, we got Oregon going into Happy Valley for the Penn State wideout. The biggest game on the slate, I would say probably the biggest game thus far in the season. You have Oregon, regular season champs. They have dominated most of the regular season games over the past 2 or 3 years. And then you got Penn State, who has just been, it's been gross watching them try to be an elite level opponent under James Franklin. Could this be the year? With both of these teams, they are ranked in the top 10 of the AP poll, but we don't know what we don't know about them because they really haven't played any tough competition thus far. I mean, the best opponent Oregon has played was Northwestern, and if you had told me before the season, even with there being Oklahoma State on Oregon's schedule, that their toughest opponent would be Northwestern, I'd be shocked. I would think that Oklahoma State would be better than they are, but that's why they got rid of Mullet Man, am I right? And for Penn State, this team approached the transfer portal this past spring and summer, and they got the best receivers they possibly could out of there. They got some former blue chip recruits. They added them to their roster. That team needs vertical passing threats if they want to compete for any more than a 10-2 regular season. But we haven't seen that yet, even against the Cupcakes. That could be the team holding back and holding some stuff, keeping some stuff out of the playbook. Let's save that for the Oregon game. Let's save that for the Ohio State game. Or they might just have a quarterback that's not capable of it. And that's the really tough thing to know because everywhere else, this team is really good. They have a really good offensive line. They have really good tailbacks, 2 really good tailbacks that would start probably anywhere else in the country. That defense is usually great, and they have Jim Knowles as their defensive coordinator this year. That team looks very, very, I wouldn't say elite, but they look like they're playing at a high level everywhere except for that passing game. That's always been the question with Penn State, and that's the question again with them in this game. Can they threaten the Oregon defense with the pass? But there is one thing in this game that can throw every prediction, every idea you have of this game into an absolute blender. And that is, how does Dante Moore handle Penn State's home crowd? That might be the most hostile environment in all of college football this year. There's going to be over 100,000 people there. It is their big event. That's going to be the biggest game played in that home stadium this year, unless they make it to the playoff and host someone bigger than Oregon. And those fans are going to be crazy. They are going to be so loud. They're going to do everything they can to throw that offense off rhythm, which is interesting because this offense does rely a lot on rhythm and experience. The past 2 years, they have had experienced quarterbacks that knew where to put the ball, what reads to make, to get these short, quick throws out to keep the chains moving. They already don't have that this year. They already don't have experience because Dante Moore is a first-year starter. And now he's going to be thrown in crowd noise. A lot of crowd noise. So how does that offense operate? Well, let's take a look at it with Stats and Info and the model. Stats and Info, can you tell us what the model is saying for the Penn State-Oregon game? Okay, I'm just going to assume that I'm having a fever dream and I did not just see that. So that is all the football talk that I want to do for this weekend. Friendly reminder that we are proudly not sponsored by Dr. Pepper. Who needs a tooth-rotting, kidney-killing soda when you can have Pop-Tarts? Which also doesn't sponsor us, but we hope that they will. We hope that Pop-Tarts will learn that we are indeed a real thing and that we should be taken seriously. If they sponsor us, man, we are going to give them so much good content. We are going to promote so much of their material. I'm hoping to go to the Pop-Tarts Bowl this year, and if I do, I might be able to work something out. That's me being delusional, but man, I really hope I can get that worked out. Okay, I am going to go mix some painkillers, cough medicine, sneezing medicine, sore throat medicine, any other medicine that fixes whatever the heck I've got going on. I'm going to mix them all together, and then I'm going to go rot in bed for the next several hours. You guys have a great weekend.